Welcome to Sunspots, where we explore the many ways that the Holy Spirit is working in the people, places, ministries, and missions on the surface of the sun. That is, the Synod of the Sun. I'm Thomas Riggs, Communication and Administration Coordinator. Our prayer is that you find inspiration, community, and connection in the sun. Let's get started.
Good evening and welcome to this episode of Sunspots, the podcast for the Synod of the Sun. My name is Kristy Rodgers. I'm a commissioned pastor in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. And we have several guests this evening who are going to be sharing about particular work that they are doing in response to the immigration raids and the I think it's safe to say crisis that's going on with regard to Border Patrol and ICE and federal agents and the way that immigration sweeps are happening and how this is impacting the community in this case, very particularly in the Dallas area, but being mindful that there are communities like this all over the country that are being affected or will be affected. And so what we can learn from this conversation might help us to step in and help with what's happening now and or prepare for what might be coming. So we are so grateful to welcome our guests, and I'm gonna introduce. I just want to say, Sandra and Avalos. Is that correct? Okay? And Angee Andrade.
Yes.
And Armel Crocker and George Mason. We're glad to have you this evening. And I want to start with Sandra and Angee. If you guys could introduce yourselves and let us know how you're connected with this work, with this community. That'd be great.
Hi, my name is Sandra Avalos. I am a community organizer who has been doing work around immigration for about 10 years. As a documented myself individual, I have experienced firsthand wins through community organizing, wins through a collective of people coming together. Hence, that's how we got DACA. And so I think that through that work, I believe in people power and in organizing. And so this also seemed the need for now was to organize around the needs of the field office, specifically with folks that were just going in to do their annual check-ins. But now, instead of coming out and waiting for the next appointment, now folks are being detained. And now we're told that they were going to be detained for about 15 to 30 days before they will be in front of a judge to have the opportunity to continue their process of asylum seeking. So our work definitely was tailored to assist families that now were what we call low-hanging fruit, right? When the current administration decided that they wanted to attack the immigrant community, they first saw themselves as targeting the 11 million undocumented folks in this country. But through organizing, folks learned their rights and learned that an ICE agent could not just come and snatch people from their homes. And so now they decided that the easiest way was to apprehend folks as they were going in for check-ins or as they were going into the courts. For us specifically at the field office, we knew that this was not right. We knew that folks have their right to the asylum seeking process. And we knew that the best way was to provide resources before they enter and then to provide some aftercare after they have been detained so that the family members could keep in contact with them, could encourage them to seek processes either through a bond or now the habeas corpus petition to be able to get them out.
Okay, thank you. How about Angee? How did you get involved with this?
Well, Sandra and I have known each other for a while now. I started organizing my freshman year, so it was 17 years ago. And I've just been involved specifically around immigrant rights, civil rights movement, but specifically around certain rights because it did affect my family. My family was separated by immigration by ICE, and so that's kind of where it started for me as far as like organizing around it, organizing before I realized I was an organizer, for my own family and for my neighbors alike. And in school, when I had the opportunity, I got to meet some other, at the time, activists. So it was political organizing. But after listening to community and figuring out where the need was, like I was called to work with directly impacted communities and listen and center their needs. And that's how I got originally involved, but Sandra and I met through organizing. And specifically at the field office, it was a phone call that we had got about a woman who shared that she went for a check-in and that they asked her how did she get to the field office, and she said her partner had took her, and she said that they asked about him if he was there. She said, yeah, he's waiting. The ICE agent then went out and removed him from the car, left the car on, kid in the car, and came back with the keys and said, here, we detained your husband. And when I got that phone call from her friend, I immediately reached out to Sandra, like, wait, first of all, they can't do that. She has to, there's got to be due process. An ICE agent does not have the authority to determine whether or not someone, is going to be deported or not. That's only a judge can do that. There's due process in this country. And so without even like really, I think we just kind of got sync. Sandra just showed up. She was like, I'm going with the privacy waivers and we're going to see what's going on. And I immediately followed. I immediately followed her and was like, let's go and see what's going on. And unfortunately, that's exactly what was happening. Due process is thrown out the window. Every single person has an asylum case, has an immigration case. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they have a resident card. It doesn't matter if they have a green card, residency, green card. Like, if they have an immigration case, they are being targeted. And there's no rhyme or reason. It's just this day, out of the 30-something people I talked to, 2 people were not detained. This other day, out of 60 people we talked to, 5 people were not detained. Their goal is 100 per day. And so this is that they've been using different tactics to lure really like, community members to, like if an 18-year-old had as a check-in, first check-in, they'd say, bring in your parents. And we told parents, hey, if you're going and you're voluntarily, saying you're voluntarily allowing yourself to be detained. And of course, parents, what do you do as a parent? You want to like, my son's in there, my son's calling me, I'm going to go. And in those cases, detaining family units that we've seen. So that's why we just kind of looked at what was started, like I do say, what started with privacy waivers and prayers because there was the clergy that were out there on Mondays. So it ended up into a whole respect center outside, like pop-up tent, providing essentially wraparound services because we were centering the needs of the community that needed us to be there and offer those resources. Because without us there, they would have no idea how to navigate this system. And even us, we had to, all of us come together to figure out the processes because the officers in the field office aren't giving them that information. Yeah. They're not telling them how they can contact. They're not telling them how to search them. None of those things. Everything we're providing is something that they would have to then navigate themselves. And it's not just Spanish, it's Vietnamese. The other day we had a Vietnamese family. I couldn't communicate with her because I don't speak Vietnamese. And so having to get volunteer translators on the phone to be able to translate for us. So seeing the need and just providing whatever capacity you can and reaching out to community to see where we can fill in those gaps beyond our capacity.
That is both hopeful and terrifying. I'm so grateful for the work that you guys are doing. And you shouldn't have to be doing it.
Yeah.
So that hurts just to know that. I want to George, I have not met you before, and so tell us about you and how you've gotten involved with this and what's happening.
Sure. Thank you, Kristy, and thank you, Sandra and Angee. They are the front lines in this whole thing, and we are so grateful for what they do. Yes, I was a pastor here in Dallas at a fairly large cooperative Baptist fellowship church for 33 years. I'm now emeritus there. But back in 2018, I started an interfaith nonprofit organization called Faith Commons. And our intent was to work in the community on social justice matters for the common good and to try to organize faith leadership in Dallas so that we would be able to respond to things like this that would come up. And we have been able to address immigration through press conferences and through statements that we've drawn up and delivered. And we were eventually able to organize the clergy into a sort of recognizable force called CLEAR, Clergy League for Emergency Action Response. And it's sort of based upon the German clergy resistance movement during World War II in Germany. So that group has been growing in its identification, in its understanding of itself, and in its work. We began with Monday morning vigils at the ICE field office, and it was initially just clergy, and then a lot of people wanted to participate, and so we then turned it into a sort of clergy-led event, and many people from our churches and people who were not affiliated with churches just showed up, and they would hold up signs, and we would pray, and we would be sort of a witness, a presence. Fortunately for us, the field office is located on the service road of I-35, and so lots of cars and trucks go by and see us, and we get a lot of honking, a lot of appreciation, very little sort of pushback about it. There are a lot of people who appreciate the presence of people out there in this moment. The people in the office are not so appreciative. They they sense our presence, and I think that's also part of the point. We want them to know that they're being watched, that the community, the faith community, in fact, expects them to treat people humanely and with dignity, and that is, something that we are witnessing is not taking place in the way that we think it should. This is where we believe faith leadership should be holding our government responsible for the way it behaves toward human beings. So when the time came for this respite center for Sandra and Angee and others to organize the work that they are doing in directly helping those who are coming for the check-ins, we offer to be assistance to them in a sense, spiritual care, pastoral care. Most of us do not speak Spanish, so we have tried to take a servant role in our approach, in learning from them, in standing by, and sometimes assisting by walking folk to their appointment, praying with them, and I think we can't even begin to understand the level of terror and anxiety that people are experiencing. Everyone who comes there is in danger of having their families ripped apart, their lives disrupted. Um, there's just so much fear, and that's not the kind of world we want to live in. It's not the kind of country we want to live in. And we believe that faith communities and clergy especially need to be a moral voice in speaking on behalf of their well-being. So again, I want to emphasize that we have been largely in a learner mode ourselves about this. We've learned a lot from Sandra and Angee and others, and they have been great to sort of train us in terms of the unintended, unseen bias that each of us might have that we bring to this, and learning to what to say and not to say, how to stand back and how to step in and when to, and it's tricky. People who look like Armel and me, we have a tendency to think that we are the white saviors of things, and we can just show up and fix things. This is not about fixing. This is about allyship. This is about bringing the presence of God and recognizing that the people who are most touched by the pain of these circumstances are the ones who need to lead and speak first. And so we've had a learning curve about that, and it's been humbling, but it's also been deeply moving to be part of this. And so we know that there's a lot more to come. There's a big ice warehouse that is being planned for Hutchins, Texas. And so part of our role then is to help with the big picture, a little bit more, and how to exercise the influence we have, because Sandra and Angee and others might not have all the public officials on speed dial the way we do. We some of us can get a hold of the city manager. We can get a hold of county commissioners. We have them in our, we've been here a long time, and we have some influence in that respect. So we need to leverage what we can do while they leverage what they can do, and we work as in partnership.
That's a really important point. I think a lot of folks are uncertain about what skills or connections or talent, what they might bring to the table with regard to this. And so it's really important to kind of get as many on-ramps as possible for folks to engage. So that's helpful. Thank you for that. Armel, it's good to see you this evening. Tell us where you are, what you're up to, and how you got into this.
Well, I'm the pastor at Faith United Presbyterian Church, and I originally got involved with Clear before we even had a name. I think last July or August, a good friend of mine, Reverend Amy Moore at North Park, and I kind of tagged along, and so as things grew, and after we had the shooting at the field office, we had a clergy, we kept our vigil that Monday. They were closed, and there were hundreds of migrants there not knowing what to do. And George and myself and Rabbi Nancy Caston were there when we were trying to use our cell phones to translate, because we got no information from the ICE agents or Border Patrol or government police that were there. And then the following week, it's when Angee and Sandra started coming up to they blocked off the front entrances. They really made it kind of perfect for us. There's a lot next door to their driveway to the parking lot for the government field office. And I don't remember how it all happened, but Angee and Sandra were there, and the word got out that there might be a need for clergy back there. So I originally committed, hey, I'll do this for 3 days, early in the morning. But after those 3 days, I knew what God was calling me to do, and I've been there ever since. Now I'm taking Fridays off, but to see what they do, and then for us as clergy to be there as a calming effect for these people who are traumatized.
Yeah.
And let me just point out that not only are the migrants who are coming traumatized, the community members themselves are probably traumatized every day by reliving parts of things they've already lived.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are there for them equally, just as we're there for the Ice Ages. We don't like what they're doing, but since we're all children of God, we love them and pray for them, but we don't like what they're doing. But so it's a needed, I don't want to say service, it's needed compassion on a daily basis. And every day is different. A lot of times they will let people come out. They won't detain them, and then they will detain them. And then you'll have a fear of, here's a mother and her 17-year-old son, and they're just wanting to take pictures of the son. The mother had already had an appointment. And because he's not 18, they can't take him. But it's awful what the government of the United States is doing. And I'm grateful for the community organizers, Sandra and Angee. I'm grateful for George and Clear and all the clergy that's with us, because I don't see it letting up anytime soon.
Yeah.
Kristy, I want to emphasize something that Armel was saying too, and I hinted at it earlier, but yes, we bring something to this, but we get something from this as well. We are being changed by being there. We are being touched. We are participating in the redemptive process in all of this. And part of what has to happen in this country is that the church needs to be renewed. Our religious communities, Jewish, Muslim, and others as well, but some of us have had the privilege of this country, and we therefore can sit back and enjoy that privilege, but we lose all touch with what God is really up to in the world. And it always starts in the margins with the most vulnerable people. And unless we are there in relationship, we are not able to sense what God is really doing and how God is at work in the world. And so the church is being renewed when we are present there as well, and then can bear witness to our congregations, because they otherwise are likely much more influenced by cable news and by talking heads and people who don't even know what's going on, and we can bear witness to it because we're present.
That that's such a good point. And I think that a lot of our communities, regardless of where they are, a lot of our faith communities are not as directly impacted. And we do need that stark reminder of what God is up to. And I think there is a real danger in the level of comfort that privilege allows, because it just makes it possible for you to get so out of touch that it becomes a their problem, not an our problem. And so I'm thank you for that reminder. And I honestly, I hope that all of our faith communities that hear this conversation can see themselves wherever they are in it and find a way to respond faithfully to what is happening, either what they're seeing at a distance, but also what's happening in their immediate community. How can we be more faithful? And I'm so glad you used the word redemptive, because I think it's so necessary for all of our faith communities. It's like, guys, we've gotten so comfy here. Come on, So thank you for that. So as you're looking at the work that is happening, you've got the Monday vigils and a stated desire to expand those, right? So that can be more of a Monday through Friday, right? And I want to make sure that I'm getting that correct, because as we put out an ask, I want to be clear about what it is that we're asking people.
Well, we have the Monday through Saturday respite center at the back of the field office. The prayer vigils with clergy and now lay people is in the front on I-35, the sidewalk in front, and that's just on Mondays. But the primarily work that we're talking about here is the Monday through Saturday work at the respite center, where the migrants are coming in for appointments Monday through Saturday, starting as early as 5:30, sometimes 6 a.m.
Okay. And going until what time?
It goes all the way sometimes to 3, 4 in the afternoon. The appointments officially stop at 2, but some folks get done with the check-in within 30 minutes, and some folks get done with the check-in a couple hours later. The other piece that we're waiting for is, once their loved one has been detained at 2 o'clock, we're waiting for family to come out and either pick up a vehicle or come and get the privacy waiver, for example, that the family member completed. So that way, if they need the privacy waiver to go and meet with an attorney, they can utilize that privacy waiver, or they can also, if they need assistance contacting Congress, now that we have that privacy waiver, we can provide that document so that Congress can get involved. We also provide information about if there's a need specifically like health, if we need to get their consulate involved. Right now, the Mexican consulate has been very useful in assisting folks that are Mexican to be able to get released. We have had successes in folks that are that have medical conditions being released because of. We have also been successful in ensuring that women that are pregnant are not kept, or women that have children with them are not kept. And so sometimes we do need to ensure we have folks get involved to assist us, so that if need be, they can be utilized in that way.
Okay. Now, can you just clarify, because the term privacy waiver has come up a number of times, and I don't want to assume that anybody knows offhand what that refers to. So tell us what that's about.
So a privacy waiver is actually a document that's available under the USCIS website. It's a third-party document that can be utilized so that information, the individual that signs it gives permission for that third party to access information from them. And it can be anywhere from if there's any criminal charges that they're being held for, any immigration case that they have going on, also any medical information about what detention center they're in or what detention center they're going to be moved to. With having that privacy waiver signed beforehand, before going in, that gives us easy accessibility to be able to retrieve that information.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So speaking very specifically about the respite center there at the Dallas ICE facility, the ICE field office, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what could people expect? I've looked at the CLEAR website, and there are some points of contact there. If someone reaches out, what could they expect information-wise, that kind of thing?
So from us directly, either they can start as, even if before you have an appointment, some things that we recommend. For example, we recommend that your loved ones know your A number. Your A number is your alien number, which is also, for common folks, it's like a student ID number. That's the fastest way that folks can locate you in the immigration system. With the alien number, folks are able to go into the ICE locator, for example, and see if they have been detained. With the alien number, they're also able to deposit money into their commissary account so they can purchase food or make phone calls. With that, also, you're able to, an attorney is able to then look into the case and get involved in the case if need be. Okay. So that's one of the first things that we want to make sure that everyone who has any immigration case knows it. Anyone that has ever encountered ICE by any shape or form, either through coming in through the border, turning yourself in, you automatically get an A number. Anyone that has ever submitted an immigration application, for example, even myself as a documented person, I myself have an alien number, right? So our encouragement is to make sure that all your loved ones know your A number, so that way that's a way for them to assist you. The other thing is that preferably we recommend that you don't drive up there. We recommend that either you get dropped off by a family member or you Uber, just because sometimes if you do park in there and you have your keys with you, your family members will not be able to retrieve those keys from you. And so now you have two things. Either the car is going to get towed away, you're going to have to pay for that, or you're going to have to pay a towing company and come pick up the vehicle, or pay for a spare key, which is something now that we have funds, we're able to cover that. So then the next thing is that, of course, encourage them to have a privacy waiver signed and left at home with their family. And then if you have any kids involved, if you have any minors under your care, we encourage that you have a power of attorney, so that way someone can take care of your kiddos if you are detained. Make sure you have a plan if you have any pets or anyone that you care for, such as an elder, anything along those lines. You can make a plan for them, just in case. If you have an attorney, make sure your family members or your loved ones know the information to that attorney, so that way you're ready in case you're detained. So that's before. Now, if they come up to us the day of and we have not met before, we encourage them, hey, complete this privacy waiver. If you have a loved one, give it to them. If you are if you're not a U.S. citizen, we do not encourage you to go into this parking lot, because even by you being parking there, unfortunately, there's an opportunity for them to detain you. The parking lot is part of their premises, so they can utilize that as an opportunity to be detained. We also encourage them, don't take too much money in there with you. Unfortunately, sometimes in the process of moving you from the processing center, which is also utilized, the field office is also utilized as a processing center, then to be moved to a detention center, your property could be lost in the process. So encouraging them to make sure that they don't have too much money with them, especially if the husband gets detained and he has the cash that we're going to pay the rent with, for example, which is one of the biggest things we see, is the husband goes in there with the cash that they had, or with the credit cards, and now the family is out here left without the ability to make their rent payment or pay bills. So we encourage to make sure you don't do that, because it's going to take some time before your family has actually access to all of that. So those are some things that we recommend beforehand. Then, unfortunately, once the individual gets detained, we do discuss with them, okay, now that your loved one has been detained, this is how you can utilize that A number to locate them. This is how you can deposit money into the commissary. This is how you can check if they're eligible for a bond. That's plan A. Plan B, if need be, then this is also an entity that can assist you in submitting a habeas corpus. Now, we remind them that through those processes, being careful, because now what we're seeing a lot is that folks are being moved around. We have heard folks being moved to Mississippi, Louisiana, Maryland. And so that also becomes very tricky. That is strategically done. So especially when the habeas corpus is needed to be used, it's under a different court. So may be mindful of that, making sure that the attorney that you get to file this habeas corpus is an attorney that can actually file in the correct court. So some of the things that we are suggesting folks to be prepared, we let them know that they can take the time to process it. One of the biggest things that does happen either before they go in to the check-ins, they request prayer. And then some of us even do translation of prayer. The other piece is sometimes even doing the aftercare. We do have a prayer for folks that do request it. And that also is just for guidance of what to do next. But two, it's also to bring some level of comfort. One of the biggest things that we hear after folks went in for a check-in and their loved one has been detained is they share how aggressive things were in there, how dehumanizing they were treated. And they are met with us and they appreciate us for, to some extent, bringing back their humanity. But two is to even see that sometimes it is white ICE agents that are treating them badly, but sometimes it's also brown and black folks.
Yes, it is.
That are ICE agents. And so it's like, it's very shocking to them, what they experience. And then to be met with someone that's offering them a tea, a coffee, when you have, 20, 30 degrees. But then also let's say, not all white people are evil, or not all, Latino Black people are evil. And thank you so much, because even though it might seem simple as just a tea or a coffee or a blanket or the hand warmers, it makes a difference, right? In that moment, when if it wasn't because of we are there bearing witness with them, nobody would believe them that this is happening to them, right? And so they have shared that multiple times. This, thank y'all so much for being there. Sometimes clergy leaves in the middle of a person coming in and coming out, and they'll ask us, hey, can you please reach out to clergy, reach out to Armel or to George or Eric, whatever, pray with them and let them know I came out safely. Thank you for their prayers. Or sometimes I let them know, thank you for the prayers, and just let them know that, my husband has been detained. And so things like that, I think is also very important to highlight the importance of bringing back the humanity, especially during the times that we live in, where rhetoric is being utilized to dehumanize folks, to justify the brutality of the arrest that folks are experiencing, the brutality of the separation of families that folks are experiencing, and how it's very disheartening to hear little kiddos hear how their dad was detained in front of them. The sadness of how sometimes that even happened on Christmas Eve. A little girl shows up very excited for Christmas, all dressed in red, had her little purse. And then unfortunately, her dad gets detained in front of her. And now you can hear her cry all the way from the end of the parking lot as she was coming towards us. Right. And as, her mom is trying to calm her down, telling her things are going to be okay. But, now she knows her new reality. Her new reality is that she wasn't going to see her dad for Christmas, right? She wasn't going to be with her dad for Christmas. And then just having to come out, be able to be a kid a little bit again and color. And for us to kind of talk to the mom, talk about next steps, and then learn to be that actually the dad takes some medication that he needs. And now we're going to need clergy to go up there and drop off the medication. We heavily depend on our white allies to be able to assist us in doing things like that, especially when having to encounter ICE agents, because unfortunately, there's in moments where Angee and I have been met by ICE agents, there's a different way they treat us than the way they treat Armel and George. There's a
although I think Armel and I would like to bear witness that we have learned that, we just because we're white men doesn't mean that they're going to treat us kindly. They have become increasingly adversarial and rude, and it's all that we can do sometimes to not try to remind them that we have our rights too, and we have our calling and our vocation just as they do. The problem is we have to really monitor ourselves, because we can say these things and defend ourselves, but we also do not want to endanger the careful treatment of the people that we're standing for, the migrants, and we don't want them to take it out on them. So often we find ourselves having to, hold our tongue and check our egos and step back in ways that we do not want to step back. We would like to fight, and so we have to recognize that. I do want to also emphasize something else that Sandra said, and that is rhetoric is very important in all of this. The government has tried to use language to criminalize all migrants, and to make them feel somehow as if they are less than fully human, because and that they are undeserving of their place in the world. And when we mention the A number, just even think about the fact that our government calls them aliens with the number that they have to have. There's nobody alien who is a human being on God's great earth. And that's something that I often pray is to remind these persons that there is no place where they do not belong, that they are children of God, and that they must resist letting anyone tell them that they don't belong. So part of what we have to do is to learn to use the right language, to not use triggering language, to use language that affirms humanity, and that also with our congregations teaches them to talk about migrants in ways that are about their being our neighbor, our sisters and brothers, part of a familia, all of that. That we have to change the language, and I also want to say, look, Armel, I think would agree with me. Too many people in our congregations think that our primary obligation is to serve the nation, that we are first citizens of the country. No, that's not true. We are citizens of God's kingdom in the world, and that doesn't know borders. So before we are Americans, we are human beings made in the image of God, and our highest duty is that, and that then makes us hold our country accountable for the way they behave.
Amen.
Amen. I think that's. I'm going to put that issue of language into the bucket of things that any individual anywhere can do to help improve.
That's right.
Overall.
Yes.
As we are looking for specific ways that people can help, whether they are near or far, identifying every opportunity to change the dynamic, to change the understanding, to change what's happening. Language is a huge part of that. So that is a big help. As we are considering the needs, a number have been expressed here, and our hope is to include a number of documents that will help give people some important upfront information. But I'm wondering if we could curate a list of ways that people could engage in this moment, right? I'm sitting here in Oklahoma. How can I help?
Yeah.
So tell me, just for all of us, help us to get a handle on some things that we can do regardless of whether we're in the neighborhood or further away.
Yeah. And just to highlight some folks that have also came into the to do their check-ins. There are folks from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
There are
Arkansas.
folks Arkansas that drive out from out there to come and do their check-ins. We have had a woman come with her husband to do a check-in. It was a woman that had the check-in, and unfortunately, they told her that her husband had to come in too, and then the husband got detained. This woman doesn't drive freeway. She was not sure how she was going to make it back home. And so at that same time, another lady that was going in to do a check-in with her was having a conversation with her. And luckily, community came together, and they, as a collective, shared that they would support her in traveling back to Oklahoma. But now this was someone that was out there, wasn't sure how she was going to pay rent, how she was going to get bills. So being connected to resources that are available in other states for folks that come in is key. Having a support system that's out there that we can plug into, it's going to be key. Other things, of course, is like you shared, to uplift. Now that we do officially have a social media page, uplift some of those resources so that folks can be prepared no matter what part of the country you are. There's some key things that I think all folks can do as they're going into check-ins throughout the nation. And then of course, as always, we are looking for in-kind donations as far as money. We have also asked for gift cards to give to folks like in those situations where they are in other states, to at least give them some money so they can be able to pump gas on their way. We encourage them to also take a gift card so that they can buy a meal on their way back home, so ensure that they eat. A lot of folks that show up at 5:30 in the morning woke up and ran to the office. They have not had a meal yet. So that's another thing that we do ensure, is try to ensure that they either eat something with us before they go in, eat something before they leave us. And sometimes we have to even remind them, here's a gift card to Panera. Before you get home, please make sure you buy a soup and a coffee before you head home. Because I know once you get home, you're not going to be able to think of eating again. So things like that help that individual take care of their basic needs before they get started. It's key. I don't know if there's anything that I missed, Angee.
So that's because that's the aspect of like, well, what are the calls to action? Like, number one is the Liberation Fund, the mutual aid fund that we have, because thankfully we've been 100% sponsored by community. Like, somebody said, dude, looks like you need a tent. Now you're getting burnt. Did y'all need some chairs? The pop-up Respite Center was 100% donated and sponsored by community. So every single penny that goes into the Liberation Fund, to the mutual aid fund, goes back to our community. And so that's like, it immediately goes in and then it goes out. Like we raised $10,100 on the first fundraiser we had, immediately distribute almost 9,000. And the need is there. That was just 1 month. Now we haven't done the numbers for this month, but we raised 6,000. And I already know that we're kind of upside down because we've got a lot of people that we serve. So number one is the mutual aid. Number two is like donate your time, skills, your time or skills. If you have a skill, it could be as simple as, I think somebody was making the little beanies. I can't remember her name, but she's going to be making beanies because it's cold, and whatever skill it is that you have to utilize that skill. Maybe you don't have funds, but you have a skill. And then of course the gift cards like you shared, and then sharing what you saw, what you heard, what you experienced, the way George and Armel have shared. Even us today during our meeting, everybody in that room of 200 plus people didn't realize this was happening because it's not shared. Because as we should, the news has come out to do stories on this numerous times, but that doesn't get past that. It doesn't get approved to share what we're sharing because it's truth. And there's media that's being controlled right now where if it doesn't fit the current agenda, it's not going to be shared of what's happening. They're not going to share about, the little girl who had her, Christmas dress on, her dad was detained. They're not sharing that the people who are getting detained and separated from families are not criminals like they're saying on, all over. It's not one person. And, and just that whole conversation, like of taking back the moving away from the rhetoric and taking control of the narrative. And we do that by sharing testimonies, by sharing, the truth of what we've seen, of what we bear witness to. So I think it's like the 5 things I would say.
So what mechanism, I think what Kristy's getting at is, you mentioned you now have a social media account. Mm-hmm. So what mechanisms like that, or Facebook, that Kristy could put out where people would have a way of getting in touch with you to either say, hey, I want to donate this, how do I do it? Or I want to donate time, or I want to bring food at a certain day. But for those near and far, so that I think what Kristy's asking for is how do people get in touch?
Yeah.
I would say we can share the link. So there's the link for the Liberation Fund. The Instagram page, of course, it's new. We just did it last night because we did need somewhere for folks to go to. So we can definitely share the Instagram page because that's our kind of going to be our source to share all updates, all graphics of like anything that the families need. That's our audience, right? That's who asked for us to make it. So the Instagram page, the Liberation Fund link, it's a Get Better link. We're backed by 501c3, so it's a nonprofit, backed by a nonprofit, so it's tax deductible. You'll get a receipt. The link for the meal train, where people, even if they're not local, they can donate a gift card on there. I think we've got a few DoorDash gift cards that we've been able to utilize for the days that someone isn't signed up to drop off food. So there's the meal train, and then what am I missing? Oh, the sign-up sheet, or the interest form. An interest form will kind of have the questionnaire of like, how do you want to be involved? Do you want to go to a training? Or, it'll have those questions on how you want to, what resources or networks that you have. So I think those are the few things that, at least with the links, and we can share those.
I also want to move it a little bit beyond where people can help here in Dallas and remind them that there are things they can do where they are also. Mm-hmm. So the Synod of the Sun covers a wide swath of the Southwest. And the truth is that in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, you have undocumented persons who are living among you, whom you know. And if you don't know them, you should get to know them. And you should also, in your churches, your other congregations, you should make it clear that those are safe places for them to be. Mm-hmm. And often we'll have people who are working in our own churches, and we don't realize the vulnerability they feel, and they might disappear because they had to go do a check-in or something, but we didn't know that. You should prepare your congregation for that. Reach out to them, make sure that they know that if they are called or if they have to go, you will accompany them. You'll be there for them, and you'll be praying for them, and all those sorts of things that we think, if there's not a field office in Bartlesville, for instance, that maybe there's nothing to do. No, there's a lot to do. And then also organize the clergy of the community, because ICE will come to your community eventually. And you need to be prepared before that to learn how to organize and be in relationship, and what will you do and how will you stand. Because here's the thing, if the only groups that organize and are visible are in big urban areas, then the government sort of thinks that, okay, when we go into smaller communities and all of that, that's our territory, those are our people. Actually, no, if you can organize people in those communities to bear witness and make sure that people know that you don't like this, that you insist that our government treat people humanely and follow the rule of law and all those sorts of things. Well, now this is a widespread thing. It'll change the way the government understands this country. And I think it's really important to take initiative ahead of time.
That is really helpful. And also all of the links, because particularly because the area that you guys are working is within our synod. So we want all of it, the near and the far.
Right.
So the links that can help people connect, with you said the uplift that's the Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, if any, because I'd love to include those links in the show notes for this. And so if, in fact, if you have those available and can put them into the chat, that would actually be really helpful. I never set these calls up with the AI, this kind of thing. It's just, that's kind of a new ad that I have not played with much. And so I don't have that set up on this call, but if you can put in the chat the links, then we can have those captured for the ways that folks can be involved directly there and further afield. And but there are so many things here, and I'm grateful for kind of unpacking the ways that people have helped with in-kind donations and activities, because I think a lot of times folks are sitting, are in a space thinking, I can't imagine what I could do that would be helpful. And so somebody, knitting or crocheting up beanies, that makes sense, but it's not the first thing people might think about. And so that's really helpful. So, are there, and the conversation about the event in Flower Mound actually happened before we hit record. And so I very much would like for you to, if you can just tell, I'm assuming that this was a bear witness kind of account, kind of event, but can you just kind of say a little bit about that? I know George is getting ready and is going to have to hop off, but can you say something about that event?
Yeah, of course. Do you want to tell Emily to bring the links? We're getting the links to you.
Thank
you. So we actually got invited through someone that was watching our Facebook Lives, because we were doing Facebook Lives. I think one of our Facebook Lives got like 30,000 views or something, and it was actually shared in Colombia when a family was trying to find their loved one that was missing that we actually talked to. So we were able to connect them, but we do Facebook Lives. Didn't realize until they started deleting that the lives delete after 30 days. So we have to kind of figure out and pivot a little bit from that and maybe do just videos and not the lives. But through those Facebook Lives, someone who's been a part of like just the organizing space in Dallas, but reached out and said, hey, I've got an entire community in Flower Mound that would just like to know some updates, and you and Sandra are available to speak. So when I was invited, I originally thought it was just like maybe an announcement at the end or something. I didn't realize we were there to be the keynote speakers. And so I had to kind of had about a few minutes to try to put it all together to speak, but I went with testimonial of, the reason I got involved, and just shared some stories. And everyone, it was over 200 people. There were so many people who were standing in the back who again want to do something. So there was an entire crowd actively, like, all eyes on me. I mean, I looked at the crowd. A lot of times you're in a space, I've done a lot of public speaking events, and you'll have people like wander off, be on their phones. Every single person was paying attention. And it's anybody who's done any kind of public speaking, I'm sure y'all have, because y'all are clergy, right? Where you have some people that kind of like, kind of just not as attentive, but every single person in that room was attentively listening, and everyone had the same question. I want to do something, but I don't know how. I don't know what to do. So when I came in, that was the thing I said of I know there's a lot going on now. Do you feel like you're in a moment where you feel like you don't know where to start? This is a good place to start. And that's where I shared like some of the work that the work we're doing, and then the links of like something you can do that's tangible, that's immediate. We did get some cash donations from folks who had that on hand, of like really uplifting the mutual aid, because they are targeting a lot of the men. And then our communities, immigrant communities at least, many of them are traditional. So the wives are stay-at-home wives, they're homemakers. And so sharing that of like, now they've taken this breadwinner who maybe owns businesses or, is the one paying all bills. Now this country is creating single mothers, and that don't have, the funds, don't have a job, maybe haven't worked. And so me sharing that reality of what is actually happening, just everyone was just, one didn't know it was happening so local. They thought it was like, oh, this is going on in Minneapolis, not here. And so it was that reality, like, no, it's happening here and every single day. And I'm not saying don't donate to Minneapolis. Definitely the need is there, but also it is also happening here. So it was honestly very beautiful to see after a really rough week at the just with the arrests and everything. It's beautiful to see the amount of people that want to help and want to do something and are not just saying it, but had a line of people wanting to speak to me on how they can immediately get involved.
That is such an encouragement, and I am so grateful. And I see Sandra's working very hard trying to get this, trying to get into the chat and to share this. And if we can't get it from the chat, I can get the information. I can get the information from Armel, through email, just so that it can be included. So if it becomes odious and too much, just do what you can, and we'll figure out how to get all of it eventually. But I am so grateful to each and all of you for the ways that you are being hope and providing hope for people in a really, really hard season. I'd love to, if we can. I know we're running out of time. Can I close us with prayer?
Please.
God of grace, we give you thanks for this day, for this time, for these people, for your call to each and every one of us to love one another, to love you and to love each other as we love ourselves. Lord, we still and will always need your help with that. And we thank you for the opportunity to learn about some ways we can do that in real and tangible and powerful ways in this moment. Help us to meet that moment with courage, with faithfulness, with authenticity. Give those who are already in the work the courage, the energy, the strength, and whatever provision they need for each and every day, along with the blessings of grace that you offer through being faithful to what you ask us to do. We ask that you would just continue to provide, and we give thanks for that in Jesus' faithful name. Amen.
In the Synod of the Son, we believe when we work together across boundaries, we make visible the good news and we find wholeness as the body of Christ. In our common calling, we impact lives together. So let's remember to connect with, equip, and empower one another in the name of Jesus Christ, today and every day.